It will tell. It gives it. Take a minute. There we go. And we are live. Awesome. Thank you for joining us on this special episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. And today we have a very special guest, Amanda Abbe, and she is sharing her survivor story. Since this is Cancer Survivor Month, I wanted to honor as many cancer survivors as I could onto the show that was willing to share their story. So, Amanda, thank you so much for contacting me and agreeing to come on to the show today. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. And her and I have been talking back and forth for the last 2 days, and I've never laughed so much in my entire life. And so thanks for coming on. Thanks for the laughs. And if you just want to start by sharing your story, that would be amazing.
Well, thank you. And I so appreciate that you have opened up this platform for people to talk. I think it's really, really important. And I like to be the face of what sort of goes against what people have a perception of cancer. I mean, I know that before I was diagnosed, my perception was people who were really ill, frail, gray. Like I just had this horrible image in my head, and that's thanks to, in part, what you see on TV and in the movies and whatnot. So when I knew that I had cancer growing inside of me, I had a lot of terror. But anyways, you can see that that's not necessarily the case. So my story, a few years ago, I sensed that something wasn't quite right. I had a sore on my breast. But there was nothing visual. There wasn't anything that I could have taken to a doctor. And I kind of felt funny about even thinking that there was anything going on. That was about 2016. It was in the back of my mind. 2017, there was a little bit more, like this just nagging feeling wasn't going away. In 2018, there were changes that I recognized. But at this point, I was busy. Life kind of gets in the way. And by 2019, I know full well that I have breast cancer, and I still haven't gone to the doctor. I still have those thoughts, feelings, and emotions in my head of chemo is going to kill me, like all this stuff that I had taken on. Anyways, universe is interesting. It kind of forced me into going to the doctor eventually. The doctor actually called me to come in to have a test. I'm one of those people that, there's people that go to the doctor for everything, and I'm one of those people that doesn't go to the doctor for anything. So, so my doctor's office had called and said, Amanda, it's been a long time since you've had a pap smear, which is just something that every woman enjoys, right?
Yeah, right.
And I'd been avoiding it, of course. So anyways, I agreed to go in, and I thought, okay, this is what is going to end up starting this journey. And it was. So I went into the doctor's office and I had my pap smear, and the nurse said, okay, you're free to go. And I said, I took a deep breath and I said, and she just looked at me and she goes, do you have a lump? And I said, yes, burst into tears. I showed her, and the journey began. But what happened that day was a weight got lifted off of me, because I had been carrying this burden around with me for about 2 years, and I hadn't done anything about it. I was embarrassed. There was all these things. I was too young. I shouldn't have breast cancer. I didn't know anything about it. And then you're caught in this whirlwind. All of a sudden, you're in a world that you know nothing about. So they rush you into tests and they do all these things, and you're hearing words and terminology that you don't quite understand, and it's overwhelming. But anyways, I was diagnosed with what is called invasive ductal carcinoma, and it had spread to my spine. So I was actually diagnosed right off the hop with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. That's not great.
Right.
There isn't a lot of research dollars that go into women who have stage 4. A lot of the breast cancer information is about getting the information out there so that you get tested, that you do your mammograms, you do your your breast self-test every, month or whatever. And there's nothing really that carries forward for any of us who are diagnosed as stage 4 or people who have been previously diagnosed and then years later it reoccurs as stage 4. So I didn't know anything about breast cancer, to be honest. I just knew that something wasn't right. And then all of a sudden you're in a world, again, as I said, you don't know anything about, and you're trying to figure it out and navigate it as you're going along.
Right.
I
just we have a viewer here, my friend Nancy. She said thanks for paging her. I paged a bunch of people. But I just have a question just to stop you a little bit here, Amanda. When they first diagnosed you with cancer, what was going through your mind at that time?
I already knew I had cancer. So when I was told, so that day when I was sitting in the nurses, like in the exam room, the nurse went and got the doctor. So I had already showed her. So what had happened to me, there was not just a lump, the cancer had actually eaten through. I had a wound on my breast. So it was very obvious that something was not right, obviously. Right. So when the doctor came in, and again, I had to show him, the looks on their faces was one of concern and pity. And the doctor said to me, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is bad. I already knew that. But that weight that was lifted off of my shoulders when I talked to them and when I finally presented was just immense, because I was not in a good state of mind. I was terrified for about 2 years. I was hiding this. I didn't know what to do with it. My poor husband just wanted me to go to the doctor, and I was just too scared to do so, which is, that's not an uncommon thing for people. It's like you don't want to know. Exactly. Maybe something's not quite, but you don't want to know. So weird.
But Nancy says, thank you for sharing your story. And you might have noticed the look on my face. It's just as you were sharing that part. My aunt did the exact same thing. She knew for 10 years that she had it and didn't go to the doctor. The only thing is, nothing saved her from going until it was way too late. They gave her months, and she ended up living 2 years. But I mean, she looked, pardon me, but death warmed over by the time it was done. And like the different treatments and things like that did keep her prolonged for 2 years. But please don't wait that long, guys. Please don't wait that long. If you're listening, please don't.
And that's what I want to say. Like I'm telling my story because I don't want other people to do this. But one of the things that my doctor said to me, because I was 43 when I went, it was just before my 44th birthday. And my doctor actually said to me, if you had come 2, 3, 4 years prior with just that niggling feeling that you had, he says, I would not have sent you for tests because you don't fit the mold. You weren't old enough, right? We don't do mammograms until you're older. So there's this perception even within the healthcare system that this can't happen to younger women. But the problem is, it is happening to younger women. Mine is hormone driven. Mm-hmm. So mine is estrogen and progesterone positive, HER2 negative. And that's, I'm not 100% sure about the HER2 negative. It's a protein or an enzyme or something, but that's not mine.
Right.
So what happens is my estrogen and progesterone in my body, my hormones are out of whack. So that's what was feeding the cancer. Right. There was a time, I would like to say it was around 2006, 2007, maybe. I was in the shower and like my kids were older at that point. Like I had breastfed both of them. And at this point, I mean, they're already in school, but my left breast started to express milk. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I kind of remembered it, but it never happened again. But that is where the cancer was. So there's all these little signs that your body will give you, and you might slough it off or whatever, but it could be that your body is telling you something. And the problem with these hormone-driven cancers, of like breast cancers, is that younger and younger women are being diagnosed. And the medical community doesn't necessarily take that into consideration. Some do, some don't, but that was my situation. My doctor said he wouldn't have sent me for anything. So in some of my research and some of the stuff that other women that I have spoken to, they've been told that cancer that they had, if it's the same as mine, could have been brewing inside your body for 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a slow growing cancer, which is to my benefit, I guess. But
yeah. But I also feel that we have to be, I knew the word before I was going to say it. We have to be our own advocate, because like you said, because you don't fit the mold, they're not going to test you for this. That's and right. I have a friend named Amy who has she's had 2 different kinds of cancer, lymphoma and something else. I apologize. I don't remember exactly what she had, but she was around my age and like to fight it twice. And she both times had an advocate for herself. You know, she goes, I know something's wrong. Her neck swelled up like a freaking football, and they did tests and said nothing's wrong and sent her home. It's like, just because you don't fit the norm doesn't mean that there's not something there. And you, like you said, you know your body, you know there's something there, but you have to keep on advocating for yourself. And, you know, when my dad was diagnosed, I was just like, okay, well, ask this question. Oh, but the doctor, I'm like, I don't care what the doctor said. Just ask these questions, because, you know, and get a second opinion. Because not that I don't trust the doctor. It's just, I want a second opinion. This, like you said, cancer, as soon as people hear the word cancer, it's like death sentence. That's exactly how cancer death sentence, when it doesn't have to be, you know, with prevention and things like that, getting it and doing the testing and the proper testing at all times. You know, like you said, if you wouldn't have advocated at different times, you know, different things, it could have been different. We have a couple of things here. Questions from Nancy. She paid out of her pocket for a baseline mammogram at 35 years old because the healthcare system test wasn't there to fit that certain profile. And you know, that's crazy. And
of course it is.
Yeah.
So some of us, I joined a group and on Facebook, and it's very large. And it's a group of women who have metastatic breast cancer, all hormone driven. And so we're all sort of in the same boat. We're all on different therapies. We're all on different paths. Mm-hmm. But when I was diagnosed, there's bits of information that you get. So when my husband and I went to meet with the oncologist the first time, this is March of last year, I was sitting in the waiting room, and this is just before COVID shut everything down. So there was all kinds of people in that waiting room waiting to have their chemo infusion or whatever the case may be. So I'm sitting there. They had a TV going. I Love Lucy was on. I'm watching that, trying to get into it and trying not to fall apart because I was terrified. A woman across from me she was just this beautiful, beautiful older lady. She was dressed in bright colors, and she was using a walker, and she had buzzed gray hair and just full makeup, and she was just stunning. And she could see that I was falling apart. And she got up when she was called, and she came over to me and she said, honey, there is life after cancer. She goes, I'm going in for my 96th chemo infusion. 96.
Wow.
And I'm looking at her, and I just started to cry because it was just so relieving to see that there was something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And when Amanda and I talked prior to the show, I was sharing a little bit about how a daughter's perspective of a cancer patient is. And I had shared that while my mom and I were in the waiting room, we were there with other spouses or children of the patients. And the, we were talking to other people because it was like it was a special bond, because it's like the cancer brought us all together, basically strangers, and we're sitting there taking comfort from each other, knowing that it could be your 94th treatment, or it could, maybe you only need 16, or however long it takes to get it out. But it's like, I don't want to say, it is like a camaraderie, I guess. And it's like this horrible disease does bring it together. But I guess in the moment, the lesson of that is just be kind and just reach out. Like if you see somebody struggling, you have no idea what just saying hi or how you doing, or in your case, there is life after a diagnosis. Just by saying and being that somebody could be life changing for
Yes.
anybody.
Yeah, it really is. We all have a story and we all have something. And I like to say, I became that. So that woman and another woman who was also there in that waiting room, she said to me, I'm a year out, and I'm looking at her, and she, like, I'm tall and and I'm strong and whatnot, and she was sort of a similar build to me, and she goes, a year ago I was diagnosed, and she goes, I looked the same, and I thought, like, it was all these little things that just, it was like, oh, good. Like I can see somebody, I can see what this other side is going to look like. And that gave me a little bit of courage and a little bit more strength, right. To get through it. Because the unknowns are the worst part of anything. Not knowing. I would go into, I had MRI and I had a bone scan and I had a CT scan and biopsy and the mammogram. And I think I cried for every one of them because I had never had anything. I'd never been sick a day in my life, really. And then all of a sudden, go big or go home.
Yeah.
But once you do all that stuff, you understand and you know that it's okay. And then you are able to become that beacon for somebody else. And you have that strength and that the words that you can tell somebody else who's new. And then that continues along down the line. Right.
Exactly. And I like how you said, like, at the beginning, you didn't know what to expect. And I was blessed because my dad was diagnosed the first time just before COVID hit. So I was blessed to be able to go to his first appointments. And the first time when he went to go back they have different rooms. Some there's private rooms. The first time, the first treatment, you get a private room. After that, you have to sit with everybody. But I didn't like how they took you around everybody that was in the public part first to get to the private part. I didn't like it for the fact that some of these people looked like they were dying and they looked like they were on their last day. And for them to feel that way and look that way and have somebody who looks like, hey, they're healthy, walk by them, I felt very bad for them. And to see that this could potentially be what my dad could potentially look like, in the future. So seeing that, it brought open a whole different perspective for me on the whole cancer thing. And, because you're really not sure what to expect. We do have a couple questions here. Tim wants to know how you stay hopeful and what gets you through each day.
So it was a process. So I spent 2-3 years just being afraid. It was always in the back of my head. It was just this beast that was growing on my back, that it was in my head. And I mean, I was scared. I would cry. Like, looking back, it's just ridiculous what I did for 2 years. So I had a conversation with myself, and I do it all the time. I talk to myself. But anyways, I said, we need help. Because I tried to do.
I do that too.
Yeah, that's how to get through it, right? But I tried to do things that would maybe make it go away or fix it, whatever.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to the point where I needed that help, I had already accepted it. Yeah. I already knew that I was going to have a mastectomy and it was going to be great. So I had already accepted all of this stuff before I even went to the doctor, before I even got that confirmation of the diagnosis, and before I knew any of this stuff. Having said that, this is not an easy journey. I have been pretty positive the entire time, but I have had the darkest days that I have ever experienced in my life. I've said that I, hit rock bottom and then found that there's actually a hole in rock bottom, which I also fell through. So this hasn't been easy. COVID has helped a little bit because I didn't have to go anywhere. Everybody else's world was screwed up. Mine was screwed up, but I took it as permission to rest. I took it as permission to just do all that inner healing that I needed to do. And I had a lot of help. So I did a lot of soul searching. I've done a lot of energy clearing, and my faith is really strong. And sometimes your faith kind of falls off a little bit because something will get into your head. But then you have to reel her back. You can do this. I'll look at myself. I don't look sick. I only have something that is in my spine now. As soon as I had my mastectomy, it was like I forgot all about cancer because that visual representation of what was there was gone. Right. Yes, I have a scar. Yes, it's gone. But so is that lump. So is that mess that was there. And it's just gone. Right? So there's all these things. Yes, there's aches and there's pains and the medications that I will be on for the rest of my life to keep the estrogen down and to keep the cancer cells that still exist from feeding off of the estrogen in my body, make my joints hurt. I was thrown into menopause. So you're going through all of these things. It's just been a joy. It's been a joy.
Right. Our friend Nancy said she was told by a friend that she became part of the Cancer Club and that the community was the important component of her treatment.
Yes.
And
one of the things that I didn't do was join a group until well after I had gone through all this. So when I found the group that I mentioned, which is all women who are in the same position, I wish that I had found them earlier. There are other groups that feel differently. It's a group of maybe a lot of different cancers, or it's a group that has caregivers and family members and whatnot. The group that I really resonate with is just us. There's no caregivers. There's no anything else. It's just us. And it's almost like we are, I don't know, we're all in the same boat. We all understand what's going on. We uplift each other. We're all going through similar things. So somebody will have a question and be like, yeah, me too. Or this is something that has worked or helped relieve some of these issues. Whereas some of the other groups, you'll have people who are like, oh, well, why didn't you take, I don't know, such and such supplement that'll cure cancer? And the cancer industry is just, they already have the cure for cancer. So
people say the most ignorantest thing. I swear to God, ignorant.
Yep.
Another question here. Tim just came out with his leukemia story. He's had leukemia. I won't give his whole story away, but he's had leukemia for 15 years and he just came out with it. He said, when was the first time you shared your story? He just shared his story, like I just said, on our friend Nancy show with Stephen Sullivan. So when was the first time that you just decided to go public with your story?
So actually what I did was the day that I went in for chemo, in that private room, like you spoke of, we were waiting to be infused. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to say something because I hadn't said anything to anybody. My husband knew, my mom knew, my kids knew. My aunt knew and my best friends knew, as well as like my in-laws, they all knew. But as for any of the rest of my friends or extended people, they didn't. So I took a picture of myself and I said something to the effect of waiting for my first chemo infusion. And I just, blah. And, people are like, what? and that was kind of cathartic for me. And then I started to post a little bit more and a little bit more. And then I just became really, really honest about what was going on and presenting this journey which helped me, but I also wanted it to help and inspire other people. Yeah, it's a shitty situation to be in, but it doesn't have to take over your life. I am so much more than cancer. Like, that's not who I am. Even though I'm talking about this, it's something that I now know about. I'm an expert on myself. I'm not saying that this anything that I'm doing is going to be true for anyone else, but you can do this, and it's been a gift. And I don't say that lightly. It has been a gift, because I'm not the same person I was a year ago, and I certainly am not the same person that I was when I was like hiding and afraid of, taking this step and being diagnosed. It's, I don't know. So I've been sharing my story for about a year, and I'm very honest and open about it.
Tim says your story really resonates with him as well, since he's a fellow cancer survivor. So.
Yeah.
We have our friend Christy joined us. Our friend Nancy has joined us. Another Nancy Hill.
Hi.
Nancy Hill is moving from New Hampshire to Florida in a week. I know.
Very nice.
Listening is understanding. That's a wonderful conversation. Obviously, the power of grounding and knowing ourselves is huge.
Yep. And it is one of the clubs you don't want to be in, but it is what it is, and you, when you play the card or the hand of cards that you're given, right?
Exactly. And Tim's mom found that the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society support groups were very helpful. So
there's so many amazing groups out there. And it's just finding one that really resonates with you and that is supportive. And like I said before, it doesn't have all those other people in there who are either desperate to cure their family member, or, there's a lot of noise out there. And one of the pitfalls that you can fall into is feeling guilty. If I had done this, if I had done that, maybe this wouldn't happen.
It's not counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. It keeps you in a hole.
Yeah.
And it doesn't allow you to move forward.
Exactly.
Fine. Whatever you did in the past, who cares? That's not where you live. We don't grow by watching what's going on in the background or looking in the rearview mirror. You move forward. That's what you do. You move forward, and that's where growth happens. Exactly. And you grow out of shitty situations, or you die. To be honest.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Tim said he got a reaction like that the other day. What, leukemia? But I think, like you said, is finding love and support in different things, whether it be a group or whether it be friends or a community, like our LinkedIn community is really, it's very powerful. Like I didn't realize the power of the community in a collective way. It's true. And another thing, before we came on the show, actually, Amanda and I were laughing quite hysterically at something, and because we have to find the humor, I have to find the humor in everything. So, and she said that I said, "Oh, this COVID hair," and she said yes, and she goes, "Oh, at least her eyebrows and her eyelashes are back." So tell the viewers a little bit about that story, because that was actually quite comical.
Hair is important, and the way you look is important. And at the beginning of COVID, who knew that we weren't going to be able to get haircuts, or we were all going to look a certain way, right? But I tried to hang on to my hair as long as I could. And when I finally, it was coming out and it was thinning, and I had long hair, and I thought, for God's sakes, it's going to come out. So I would put it in a French braid. I'm trying to keep my hair attached to my head for as long as possible, which was silly. So one day I thought, I'm going to take the kitchen scissors. Let's see what I'm going to look like with a pixie cut, because I'm already looking forward to the day when my hair is long enough after all of this stuff that I can have a pixie cut. I'm so excited. So I take the kitchen and I'm cutting my hair, and it's coming out, but I'm cutting it short, and I'm seeing that oh, I'm going to look really cute with short hair. And then I text my husband who was out getting groceries and I said, when you come home, I'm going to need you to buzz my hair. Right? So he did that. And that was fine. So I have a good head apparently. So I look good bald. But what I thought, I can do this as long as I have eyebrows and eyelashes. Well, then they fell out.
Oh,
I didn't notice it. So my eyebrows were thinning, and one day I woke up and I looked at myself and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with my face? I'm like, oh my God, my eyebrows are gone. And then I noticed that I also didn't have eyelashes.
So what with cosmetics?
So I thought, okay. I went out and I got magnetic eyelashes. So, you know, the kind that you can, there's like this special eyeliner and that's magnetic. And then you can put these little like eyelashes on your face. And I've never been one to have a whole lot of makeup. So, oh, and I bought it's like a little mascara brush for your eyebrows. Well, so I tried that and I tried to pencil it in and I did not do a very good job. And then I'm trying to put on these stupid false eyelashes. I just looked ridiculous. Like I looked like a clown. So I thought, this is silly. And I laughed at myself because I should have taken a picture because I looked ridiculous. You know, I'm bald. I've got these uneven eyebrows and I'm trying to be pretty because when you don't have eyelashes or eyebrows, it does a little something to you.
Yeah.
Right.
That is true. Well, I've never experienced that, but I know that I would be in the same boat because I don't wear makeup unless it's like a very special occasion. Yeah. And for me to even contemplate doing that, like that would just, I don't know. I would be with you. I would just say, let it go. You know, if people stare, let them stare. Reality is.
And you know, in sunglasses and nobody even notices. It was just fine.
Just pretend you're Paris Hilton and you're just walking, you strut, and then, you know, who cares?
It was fine because we didn't have anywhere to go, right? Yeah. Everything was shut down. So, I mean, it really didn't make any difference.
Exactly. That's the upside. I think you got to look through the upside, you know, of everything, no matter how shitty the situation really is. And, you know, I don't see that lately because I had shared with you, you know, I know what it's like on my end on how I feel, but as the person that's actually going through it. Yeah. And I know there's some moments that my dad's been quiet too. And I'm like, I can only imagine what's going through his head. You have some kind of disease that could take you at any time, you know, so you live with that daily, knowing this could be your last day. So how has that changed you, though, knowing that you could potentially, this could be your last day? Has that changed you on how you live life on you know, things like that?
Yep. Why put off anything, right? Yeah. So COVID has kind of stymied the urges that I have to go and travel. Can't do that. I love to travel. But then you find the joy in other things, right? We live on a farm and I grew up on a farm, and a few years ago, we bought a property that we're developing. I have horses and cattle and chickens and all that stuff, and it's very peaceful here. And I've had this opportunity to actually enjoy what I have, and then make plans for other things in the future. I'm not rushing the future. I'm not, you know, there's no point in being upset about what is happening in terms of COVID. It's given me pause. This has been honestly the best year of my life. And I say that with all honesty, it really has, because I've learned to love who I am. I've learned to appreciate everything that I have and to build on it and to go after those dreams that I had. I always had in my head that, I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I always had this vision in my head of having the horses and the cattle and the chickens and all that stuff. And now I've got them. And then what else, right? Why wait? Why stay in a position that you hate? I was in a job for a while that, I mean, I've always done things, and whatever decision I make, I own it. So if I'm in a job, I love it, right? Until I don't, or whatever the case may be. And it's okay. I've never beaten myself up over things that I have done or choices that I've made. It's all been quite deliberate. So I don't beat myself up over the fact that I didn't go to the doctor. I don't beat myself up over any of the other decisions that I've made. I own them. Having said that, you have to just sit in the moment. One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given was just take something, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed, take that day and maybe just get through the 15 minutes ahead of, in that moment. Get through those 15 minutes, then get through the next 15 minutes, and then get through a half day, and then get through a day. And that's okay. And that's how I manage anything. If I'm overwhelmed by something, I take that time and I sit with it. Sometimes I don't even notice that I've gotten overwhelmed, and I'll find myself crying or doing whatever. And it's like, okay, let's dial this back here. What is actually going on? And then you can address whatever's going on. But for the most part, I just appreciate being alive. And people will say, oh, well, we all die. I could be hit by a bus tomorrow. Yes, you could. Any one of us could. But I've been hit by the bus, and now I'm being dragged around by the bus until the day I die.
Right.
Because I'm going to be on this treatment forever, right?
Right.
It's stable. It's there, but I'm not cured. So it's always going to be in my spine. I'm going to always have to have scans and be monitored. But I do have some anxiety around that, because when you have those scans, it's like, okay, well, it's a snapshot of what's been going on in the previous 4 months or the previous 6 months or whatever the case may be. But
right.
Live, because if you're living in fear, you're not living.
Exactly. And I think we could all learn a lesson from you, Amanda, for sure, in that. I mean, at moments, I'm sure we are fearful of something, but if
100%.
we never know. But I can't imagine somebody would put that in your face. You could have been hit by a bus. But I'm sure, I'm glad you handled yourself with grace. I'm not sure I would have. People are just so. I'm trying to find the right word.
Sometimes people open their mouth and they don't think about what it is that's coming out of it. So,
right.
And I know full well I have said things that I really wish I could have not said.
Right.
Really wish. But sometimes I think people don't even think about that. They just say something and it's like, well, you don't look sick. No, I don't. And nor do I see myself as sick. But for somebody else, if somebody were to say that, it's almost deflating, because it's like, well, you don't see me as sick, but I am sick, and all these things that I have to deal with every day. And it's almost like you're invalidating that, because you don't see me as sick, but I am sick, and you don't understand that. And there's a danger in that. And I think by speaking up and just saying, this is my story, this is what's going to happen. It's a chronic thing that I have. It's just something that I have to manage. But life goes on. But for some people, that isn't really something that they feel or where they are at. And I respect that as well. This is just my own perspective. This is me. I'm just speaking about me. But yeah.
And that's, I guess, where you have to give yourself grace, because if you've been blessed not to have to go through anything in life, they really don't know how to act. And no. as somebody who, it feels like my entire life, my parents have had one thing or another, and from heart disease, kidney failure, diabetes, the regular angina, lupus, things like that, and then now cancer. So for me, it's always been a constant in my life where there's always been something there. So I'm aware of how to, I'm not going to say act, but be more sensitive to somebody who has never gone through that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, our friend Mark is joining us. Thanks, Mark.
The thing is, for anybody, none of us know what is going on in somebody else's world or what is happening with them. So if we can just all be kind, it would go so far, and if more of us will tell their story, and it doesn't matter whether it's cancer, whether it's something that you've overcome, by telling your story, you are sharing and you are helping somebody else. Somebody needs to hear your story. And that's true for any of us. I don't care what you've gone through. Somebody needs to hear your story. You have a wisdom within you that you can share. And so that's what I'm sharing, you know, the little bits of stuff that I've learned along the way. And because I have taken in some things that other people have said, and that has helped me or gotten me through something. And it is so important, and it is so needed, you know, and you're sharing compassion for somebody else when that's probably what most of us need is compassionate from others, you know, and that's what I hope people can take away from this. Be compassionate. You have a story. You have your own struggles, and so does everybody else. But let's be compassionate for each other and the struggles that we are all going through, because you don't know what's going on in somebody's mind, and you can't think for them. You can't do anything for them other than be compassionate, because each one of us has our own journey, and it is our own journey. But those who we meet along the way help us, or, you know, teach us something, or you can be that beacon for somebody else. And that's how society and how we should all be.
Right. Exactly. So I love the fact that you led with everybody has a story. Everybody should tell their story. And I am a firm believer in that as well. So when's your book coming out, Amanda?
I've done a lot of writing during this time, and there's posts that I've put out there on Facebook and which I've shared, and there's other posts that I've kind of kept private for myself. So I actually do have kind of a book already in progress, but I don't know.
That was my challenge to Amanda. Her and I talked about that off camera, and I was just like, I'm a shit disturber, so I'm just going to stir some up. And, you know, because I truly believe that, like you said, everybody has a story. Everybody needs to hear it. So I'm just challenging her that if she feels so led, if God's leading her to do it, to write that book and get it out in front of more people to help more people.
The problem with me is I'm kind of lazy.
No, you're not. You were baling hay just the other day as I was talking to you. This woman, this woman is unstoppable. She may have cancer, but she's not dead, and she's like baling hay the other day.
No, I wasn't baling hay. I was actually mowing the hay. So I was attacking it in my arms.
Oh, there we go.
You see that? Yeah.
There we go.
That's the damage from the hay.
Like, you are truly an inspiration. I have to say, you are truly an inspiration. You inspire me. You know, we've only talked a couple of times, but I hope we can keep this friendship going. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely, your story is absolutely amazing, and how you present it, and the strength and the courage that you have, you know, to share it with other people so that they know that they're not alone. And that is truly admirable. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Is there any last things or tips or strategies or quotes or anything that you'd want to say to our viewers before we wrap this up?
Putting me on the spot. No, just live your best life. It doesn't matter what's going on. Take that hand that you've been dealt and make something out of it. Because
I love that.
Yes, there are people out there who have overcome incredible odds. I want to, you know, be one of those people that is added to that, you know, category. But there's no reason why, you know, any of us can't do that. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have cancer or some debilitating thing or some horrendous experience in order to overcome something. You know, healing is a lifelong journey, and that's what I've learned. This is what I've been doing. It took this to kick me in the ass to change, to grow, to feel confident in who I am, and because that wasn't something that I had before. As I mentioned to you yesterday, it was like I didn't feel like I had valid life experience to speak about my life or the things that I've learned, which is ridiculous. So,
Totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Yes.
Totally ridiculous. But those are some of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that I had, and those belief systems that I had. And they're just little programs that you've picked up from somewhere else. You know, maybe somebody told you that, oh, you don't know enough, and you've internalized that. So then that turns into something years later where it's like, I can't tell my story. I don't know enough. I can't help somebody because I don't have, you know, valid things to say. Of course you do. Of course you do. If it's coming from a place of compassion, you have something to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just want to thank you so much for being brave and courageous to come on to the show and to share your story. And I just want to thank our guests for being here today. And if there's anybody else out there that is a survivor of cancer and wants to share their story, please get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to have you on the show as well, since this is Cancer Survivor Month. And if you happen to see this and it's past June, still get in touch with me, because I do have a heart for people that are going through this, families that are going through this. Obviously, as a daughter that is that has a father that's going through cancer, I know that this sucks sometimes. Like, it really sucks, but it's bringing a community of people together that maybe would not have been brought together. And I'm willing to do my part and to help people, you know, get their story out there and to be part of that community, with the connection and things like that, because I feel that this is important, and that's why I'm doing this, to bring people together and to spotlight overcomers. And you are truly an overcomer, Amanda. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. And hopefully please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Unstoppable Overcomers, to our viewers and our listeners. And we are back on Monday night at our regular scheduled time at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my amazing friend, Gina Dillon. So with that, have an amazing day, guys, and see you Monday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Just